The warning sirens echoed through the halls of Station Omega-7, their shrill cry cutting through the peaceful silence that had lasted for 300 years. Commander Thexla of the Zephyrian Navy rushed toward the main observation deck, her forearms working quickly to secure her emergency gear. Nothing had triggered the station's alarm since the Great Peace began. Nothing should have been able to reach this far into Council space without permission. The massive viewing screen showed twisted metal and sparking electronics floating in the void. The wreckage looked strange, unlike any ship design in the Council's vast databases. Sharp angles and crude welding marked the hull fragments. Whatever had built this vessel clearly favored function over the elegant curves that marked civilized spacecraft. "Report," Thexla ordered, her translator converting her clicks and whistles into standard Council speech. Lieutenant Morach, a young ethereal with silver skin that rippled with nervous energy, looked up from his console. "Sir, an unknown vessel struck our outer detection grid at impossible speeds. The ship was traveling faster than light without using any known drive technology. We've never seen anything like it." Thexla studied the debris field. The Council had catalogued every spacefaring species in the galaxy over the past millennium. New civilizations were discovered perhaps once every few centuries, and they were always primitive, barely able to achieve basic orbital flight. This wreckage suggested something different, something that had somehow developed advanced technology without Council knowledge. "Have you identified the origin point?" "Yes, sir. The trajectory traces back to a system the Council classified as barren. No signs of intelligent life. We called it Sol 3 in our surveys." Morach's skin shifted to a deeper silver, indicating confusion. "But sir, our probes found only a single inhabited planet with primitive life forms. They hadn't even achieved basic spaceflight when we last checked." "When was that last survey?" "Approximately 200 of their local years ago, sir." Thexla felt a chill run through her body. 200 years was nothing in galactic terms. The idea that any species could advance from primitive ground dwellers to faster-than-light travel in such a short time violated everything the Council knew about technological development. It had taken the Zephyrians 4,000 years to reach the stars. The patient ethereals had needed 6,000. Even the aggressive hegemony had required 3 millennia. "Recover whatever pieces you can," she commanded, "and send an immediate priority message to the Council chambers. Tell them we may have a situation." The recovery operation took 6 hours. Teams in environmental suits carefully gathered the largest fragments while specialized scanners recorded everything. What they found in the wreckage made Thexla's initial concerns seem trivial. The ship contained a data storage device that had somehow survived the impact. The information inside painted a picture that terrified every Council analyst who reviewed it. These humans, as they called themselves, had indeed achieved faster-than-light travel. But that wasn't the worst part. The data showed a species unlike anything in the Council's experience. While civilized races had long ago moved past primitive concepts like warfare and competition, these humans seemed to thrive on conflict. Their historical records showed an endless series of wars, each one driving rapid technological advancement. They had turned their entire planet into a testing ground for increasingly destructive weapons. Dr. Veltar, the Council's chief xenobiologist, presented his findings to the emergency session with visible distress. The elderly ethereal's normally calm demeanor had cracked, his silver skin flickering with patches of dark stress patterns. "Council members," he began, his voice trembling slightly. "What we have discovered challenges our understanding of how intelligent life develops. These humans have not followed the normal path toward enlightenment and peace. Instead, they have weaponized their own evolution." The viewing screen behind him displayed images recovered from the human vessel. Pictures of massive explosions, armies clashing across continents, and weapons capable of destroying entire cities. The Council members shifted uncomfortably in their seats. "They fight constantly," Dr. Veltar continued, "not just against external threats but against their own species. They have divided their single planet into competing territories and wage war over resources, beliefs, and simple territorial disputes. Most disturbing, they seem to enjoy these conflicts. Their entertainment frequently celebrates violence and conquest." Representative Colhoun of the hegemony, normally the most aggressive voice in the Council, looked genuinely shaken. "Doctor, are you suggesting they wage war for pleasure?" "I'm afraid that appears to be partially correct." Their historical records show they often initiate conflicts with minimal justification. They have a concept they call glory that seems tied to successful violence against others. They celebrate individuals who excel at destruction. The chamber fell silent except for the soft humming of life support systems. Representative Zareth of the collective finally spoke, her crystalline form pulsing with dim light. How many of them are there? Approximately 8 billion individuals on their homeworld alone, Dr. Veltar replied. And their population has been growing exponentially, while their technology advances at an unprecedented rate. The data suggests they achieved spaceflight, developed nuclear weapons, and created global communication networks all within the span of a single century. Representative Morden of the ancient ethereals rose slowly, his ancient form radiating authority. Council members, we face a threat unlike any in our recorded history. This species represents everything we have evolved beyond. They are a cosmic cancer that will spread chaos and destruction wherever they go. The debate that followed lasted for days, but the conclusion was inevitable. Every council member understood the implications. If these humans were allowed to spread beyond their solar system, they would destabilize the careful peace that had lasted for millennia. Their aggressive nature and rapid technological development made them uniquely dangerous. The vote was unanimous. Protocol Omega, the Council's most extreme containment measure, would be implemented immediately. A barrier of pure energy would surround the Sol system, trapping the humans on their homeworld and preventing any escape. Additionally, any contact with humans would be forbidden galaxy-wide. The species would be quarantined until they either destroyed themselves or evolved beyond their primitive aggressive nature. The barrier construction began within hours. Massive engineering ships positioned themselves around the Sol system, while technicians prepared the energy projectors. The barrier would be invisible to the humans but completely impermeable. No ship, no signal, no matter of any kind would be able to cross it in either direction. Admiral Vexka of the Hegemony Fleet supervised the final preparations. Energy levels stable, reported her tactical officer. Barrier generators are online and ready for activation. Are we certain this will contain them? Admiral Vexka asked. Absolutely, sir. The barrier can withstand the impact of a star-going supernova. Nothing these primitives can create will even scratch it. Then activate the containment field. The barrier sparked to life, invisible threads of energy weaving together to form an impenetrable cage around the human solar system. On distant Earth, astronomers would puzzle over strange readings from their deep space observatories, never knowing they had just been locked away from the rest of the galaxy. The council members watched the activation from their chambers, satisfied that they had prevented a galactic catastrophe. They had acted quickly and decisively, containing the threat before it could spread. Within their energy prison, the humans would have to face their own destructive nature without endangering civilized space. What none of them realized was that they were already too late. Human ships had been traveling beyond their solar system for years, and the galaxy would never be the same. Captain Sarah Martinez stared at the communications panel in disbelief. The signal from Earth had been cut off mid-transmission, leaving only static where her commanding officer's voice had been moments before. Around her, the crew of the exploration vessel Pathfinder worked frantically to re-establish contact with home. Try boosting the signal, Sarah ordered, though she already knew it wouldn't work. Something was very wrong. No response on any frequency, reported. Communications Officer James Park. It's like Earth. Just disappeared. Sarah had been leading humanity's first long-range exploration mission, mapping systems beyond the edge of their local space. The Pathfinder was one of 3 ships using Dr. Chen's experimental faster-than-light drive, pushing deeper into unknown territory than any human had gone before. They were supposed to return to Earth in 6 months with data about potential colony sites. Now it seemed they might never return home at all. Lieutenant Commander Elena Rodriguez ran diagnostics on the navigation system. Captain, I'm detecting some kind of energy barrier around the Sol system. It appeared suddenly about 3 hours ago. Nothing like our technology could create. Recommendations? Sarah asked, though her mind was already racing through possibilities. An energy barrier powerful enough to block all communication suggested technology far beyond human capabilities. Someone else was out there, and they had just cut humanity off from their homeworld. We should try to contact the other exploration ships, Elena suggested. If this barrier affects the entire system, Thompson's crew on the Navigator and Williams's team on the Discovery might be in the same situation. It took 2 days to locate the other human vessels. Both ships reported the same impossible situation. Earth was sealed behind an impenetrable energy wall, and their attempts to penetrate it had failed completely. Captain Thompson of the Navigator had actually tried to ram through the barrier and had barely escaped when his ship's hull began to buckle under impossible forces. The 3 captains held a joint conference via quantum communication link. Thompson's face showed the strain of command as he spoke. Whatever created that barrier has technology we can't match. The energy readings are off our instrument's scales. Captain Williams of the Discovery nodded grimly. My science officer thinks it's some kind of containment field. Someone wanted to trap humanity in the Sol system. Which means we're the only free humans left in the galaxy, Sarah realized. The weight of that responsibility settled on her shoulders like a physical burden. We represent the entire human race now. But Sarah and her fellow captains didn't know about the others. They had no way of knowing that Dr. Chen's breakthrough had been stolen years before the official exploration program began. Corporate spies, government black projects, and private research groups had all reverse-engineered the technology in secret. While the Council believed they had contained humanity at the moment of first contact, dozens of covert human operations had already scattered across the galaxy. On the mining station Perseverance, located in the asteroid belt of the Kepler 442 system, Supervisor Mike O'Brien faced his own version of the crisis. His crew of 43 miners had been extracting rare metals from the asteroid field for the past 2 years, supplying materials for Earth's expanding space program. The sudden loss of contact with their home base had initially seemed like a routine communication failure. Boss, we've been trying for 6 hours, reported Chief Engineer Lisa Wong. No response from Earth or any of the orbital stations. Complete radio silence. Mike had served in the military before taking the mining job. His instincts told him this wasn't a technical problem. Shut down all external transmissions, he ordered. If someone doesn't want us talking to Earth, I don't want them knowing we exist either. The mining station had been deliberately built to operate independently. The asteroid belt provided raw materials, their fusion reactors generated power, and their hydroponic gardens supplied food. What Mike hadn't expected was how quickly his miners adapted to their new isolation. Within weeks, they had converted their mineral processing equipment into manufacturing tools. The same skills that let them extract metals from asteroids now let them build components for weapons and ships. Similar transformations were happening across the galaxy. The research station New Horizons, hidden in the outer rim of the Vega system, had been conducting experiments in advanced materials when Earth went silent. Dr. Amanda Foster, the station's director, made a decision that would prove crucial for humanity's future. Instead of trying to return home, she focused her team's efforts on developing new technologies that might help them survive. We're on our own now, she told her staff of 26 scientists. Earth can't help us, but maybe we can help ourselves. The researchers threw themselves into their work with desperate energy. Within months, they had developed improved life support systems, more efficient reactor designs, and manufacturing techniques that could turn asteroid minerals into sophisticated electronics. Most importantly, they created communication systems that could operate without revealing their location to potential threats. On the trading post Opportunity, located at the edge of what humans had designated as Sector 7, Administrator Carlos Mendez faced a different challenge. His small crew had been establishing contact with alien merchants, carefully trading Earth goods for information about galactic civilization. The discovery that humans were now cut off from their home world could have been devastating. Instead, Carlos saw it as an opportunity. We know more about alien species than anyone else, he told his staff. We've been watching them, learning their languages, studying their technology. Now we use that knowledge to survive. The trading post had accumulated detailed files on 12 different alien species over the past 18 months. Carlos had insisted on careful observation and recording, never revealing too much about human capabilities or origins. That caution now proved invaluable. His team knew which aliens were peaceful traders and which were dangerous. They understood alien customs, technology levels, and most importantly, their weaknesses. What none of these scattered human groups realized was that their enforced independence was making them stronger. Each outpost developed specialized skills and knowledge, The miners became expert manufacturers. The researchers pushed the boundaries of human technology. The traders learned how to navigate alien societies. The exploration ships mapped unknown territories and gathered intelligence about galactic civilization. More importantly, they maintained contact with each other through carefully encrypted communications networks. The same technology that let them hide from alien detection also let them coordinate their activities. Within 6 months of the barrier's creation, the scattered humans had formed an informal alliance. Captain Martinez found herself at the center of this network. Her exploration ship had the longest range and the most sophisticated sensors, making it ideal for gathering intelligence and maintaining communications between the settlements. She established regular contact schedules and began coordinating resource sharing between the outposts. "We're not refugees," she announced during one of their regular conferences. "We're the advance guard of human civilization. Earth might be trapped, but we're free to build something new out here." The mining station provided raw materials and manufactured goods. The research station developed new technologies and improved existing equipment. The trading post gathered intelligence about alien species and established commercial relationships. The exploration ships mapped new territories and located resources. Within a year, the scattered human settlements had achieved something remarkable. They had become completely self-sufficient and were actually growing. New facilities were being built using resources gathered from uninhabited systems. Human technology was advancing rapidly as researchers shared discoveries across the network. The Council had made a critical error in their understanding of human nature. They had assumed that cutting humans off from their homeworld would weaken them. Instead, it had forced them to adapt and evolve at an unprecedented rate. Every challenge they faced drove innovation. Every limitation became a problem to solve rather than an obstacle to accept. And none of the Council's surveillance systems were designed to detect this kind of distributed civilization. They were looking for the traditional signs of alien expansion: large fleets, massive colonies, obvious industrial development. The human approach of small, hidden facilities and careful resource management was invisible to their monitoring systems. The humans were learning, growing, and spreading through the galaxy. The Council's containment had failed before it even began. Dr. Elena Vasquez had never expected her xenobiology research to become humanity's key to survival. Hidden in the converted laboratory aboard the research station New Horizons, she stared at the alien genetic samples her team had collected from various trading encounters. What she had discovered could change everything. "The biological differences between Council species are smaller than we thought," Elena reported during the monthly interstation conference. Her image flickered slightly on the quantum communication link, but her excitement was clear. "Their basic cellular structure is similar enough to ours that we can create temporary modifications." Captain Martinez leaned forward on the screen from her ship. "Are you saying we can make ourselves look like them?" "More than that," Elena replied, pulling up a complex genetic map. "I've identified the key markers that their security systems use for species identification. With the right modifications, we can pass their medical scans. We can literally become them, at least temporarily." The implications hit everyone immediately. Carlos Mendez spoke first from his trading post. "If we can pass as different alien species, we can move freely through their space. We can gather intelligence, establish businesses, even infiltrate their governments." "It's dangerous," warned Captain Thompson from the navigator. "If they catch us, it could mean war." "They already trapped us here," Captain Martinez pointed out. "I'd rather take the risk than spend the rest of our lives hiding in empty space." The plan that emerged from their discussions was audacious beyond anything humans had attempted before. They would infiltrate galactic civilization not through force but through deception. Small groups of modified humans would establish identities within different alien societies, gathering information and building networks. Elena's first success came 6 months later. Using genetic samples from hegemony traders, she had modified her own DNA to pass as a low-ranking member of their species. The transformation was temporary, lasting only a few weeks before her human genes reasserted themselves. But it was enough. Disguised as a hegemony citizen named Keltar, Elena traveled to the trade station Gamma 9 in hegemony space. Her forged identification papers, created using data stolen from actual hegemony databases, passed every security check. To the aliens around her, she was just another trader looking for opportunities in the outer rim markets. What Elena discovered during her 3-week mission shocked the human leadership. The great galactic civilization they had feared was not nearly as unified or advanced as it appeared. The council species had become comfortable and complacent. Their technology had stagnated for centuries. Most troubling of all, they were already suspicious of each other. "They're barely holding together," Elena reported after returning to the research station. "The hegemony and the collective have been in a cold war for decades. The Zephyrians don't trust anyone. The ethereals think they're superior to everyone else. Their unity is mostly an illusion." Captain Martinez saw the opportunity immediately. "If they're already divided, we can use that. We don't need to fight the entire galaxy. We just need to understand their weaknesses." The infiltration program expanded rapidly. Using Elena's techniques, more humans underwent temporary genetic modification and infiltrated different council societies. They adopted alien names, learned alien customs, and slowly established themselves as legitimate members of galactic civilization. Marcus Chen, a former military intelligence officer from the mining station, became Thexaval in Zephyrian space. His background and analysis made him perfect for gathering information about military capabilities and strategic planning. He discovered that the Zephyrians had been preparing for a potential conflict with the hegemony for over 50 years, but their plans were hopelessly outdated. Sarah Kim, a communications specialist from the trading post, transformed herself into Varashi and found work in the collective's data management systems. The crystalline aliens' entire society depended on information networks that were surprisingly vulnerable to subtle manipulation. Sarah learned to introduce small errors and delays that would disrupt their coordination without being detected. James Wright, an engineer from the research station, became Morkun and joined an ethereal scientific expedition. The ancient aliens were so convinced of their own superiority that they never questioned his suggestions for improvements to their equipment. James was able to gather detailed information about their most advanced technologies while subtly sabotaging their research progress. The human infiltrators discovered something that would have shocked the Council. Their societies were far more fragile than they realized. Centuries of peace and stability had made them dependent on systems and institutions that could be easily disrupted by someone who understood their weaknesses. More importantly, the humans learned that the Council's security measures were designed to detect known threats, not new forms of intelligence. Their surveillance systems looked for traditional patterns of espionage and subversion. The idea that an entire species could infiltrate their civilization using biological disguises was so alien to their thinking that they had no defenses against. Captain Martinez established herself as the coordinator of what they called Operation Dandelion. Like the earth plant that could grow anywhere and spread its seeds on the wind, humanity would take root throughout galactic civilization and gradually expand their influence. "We're not trying to conquer them," she explained to the growing network of human infiltrators. "We're trying to understand them. Every piece of information we gather makes us stronger and gives us more options." The operation's success exceeded every projection. Within 2 years, humans had established identities in dozens of systems across Council space. They worked as traders, technicians, researchers, and even low-level government officials. Each infiltrator sent regular reports back to the hidden human settlements. Building a comprehensive picture of galactic civilization, the humans learned about alien manufacturing techniques that could improve their own technology. They discovered trade routes and resource locations that had been hidden from outsiders for centuries. Most importantly, they mapped the political tensions and military capabilities of every major Council species. Dr. Foster, at the research station, used this intelligence to guide humanity's technological development. Instead of trying to match alien capabilities directly, they focused on areas where the Council species had weaknesses. While aliens had advanced energy weapons, their personal armor was designed for their specific physiologies and was less effective against human tactics. While they had faster ships, their navigation systems were centralized and vulnerable to disruption. The mining operation expanded to include rare materials that were valuable in alien markets. Using their infiltrators' knowledge of alien preferences and needs, they developed new products that commanded premium prices while appearing to come from legitimate alien sources. The trading post established business relationships with major alien corporations, always using human infiltrators as intermediaries. They became known for reliable service and innovative solutions, building trust and influence throughout the commercial networks. Most remarkably, the humans began to understand that their supposed disadvantages were actually strengths. Their lack of advanced technology forced them to be creative and adaptable. Their experience with conflict and competition made them better at recognizing threats and opportunities. Their biological diversity gave them advantages in infiltration that the more uniform alien species couldn't match. The Council's greatest fear about humanity was proving to be correct, but not in the way they had expected. Humans were indeed aggressive and expansionist, but their expansion was taking the form of cultural and economic infiltration rather than military conquest. They were spreading through galactic civilization like a virus, but instead of destroying their hosts, they were learning from them and adapting. By the end of the second year, Captain Martinez realized that the situation had fundamentally changed. Humanity was no longer a trapped species struggling to survive. They had become a hidden power within galactic civilization, with influence and capabilities that even they didn't fully understand yet. The Council had tried to contain them, but containment was no longer possible. Humans were already everywhere, and they were just getting started. The first sign that something was wrong came during the Battle of Kepler's Edge. Admiral Zorta of the Hegemony Fleet watched in confusion as his carefully planned assault against collective forces fell apart in the first hour of combat. The enemy seemed to anticipate every tactical move, countering strategies that had been classified at the highest levels. "How are they responding so quickly?" demanded his tactical officer, Lieutenant Velkar. "Our battle plans were finalized just 6 hours ago." Admiral Zorta studied the tactical display with growing unease. The collective ships moved with unprecedented coordination, executing maneuvers that should have been impossible given their known communication delays. More disturbing, they were using tactics that reminded him of historical hegemony strategies, as if someone had studied their military doctrine and turned it against them. "Admiral, we're receiving a mercenary fleet transmission," reported the communications officer. "They're requesting permission to withdraw from the battle zone." "Granted," Zorta replied absently. The mercenaries had been hired to provide additional firepower, but they were the least of his concerns now. Focus on the main collective force. What Admiral Zorta didn't know was that the mercenary fleet contained the key to his confusion. The ships belonged to a company called Stellar Defense Solutions, operated by humans using carefully forged alien identities. Captain Martinez herself commanded the lead vessel, disguised as a Zephyrian mercenary captain named Thexera. "Withdraw to minimum safe distance," Martinez ordered her fleet. Mission accomplished. The mission hadn't been to fight for either side. Instead, the human mercenaries had used their position to observe both fleets' tactics, communication protocols, and weapon capabilities. More importantly, they had subtly fed tactical information to the collective while appearing to work for the hegemony, ensuring maximum chaos and confusion. Lieutenant Commander Rodriguez, serving as Martinez's tactical officer, smiled grimly as they departed. Both sides will blame their own intelligence failures. They'll never suspect outside interference. Similar incidents were occurring throughout Council space. Trade disputes that should have been resolved peacefully escalated into major conflicts when shipments were mysteriously delayed or misdirected. Corporate mergers fell apart when key documents were leaked to competitors. Political alliances crumbled as embarrassing communications found their way into public channels. The Council's intelligence services began noticing patterns, but they interpreted them as signs of increased instability rather than coordinated manipulation. Each species blamed the others for the growing chaos, reinforcing existing suspicions and weakening their cooperation. Dr. Amanda Foster, still directing the research station's operations under her alien identity as an ethereal scientist named Silvara, had infiltrated the Council's Xenobiology Research Division. Her position gave her access to classified studies about species psychology and social structures. What she learned confirmed humanity's growing advantage. "They think in rigid patterns," Foster reported during a secure conference with other human leaders. "Each species has developed specific ways of solving problems, and they can't adapt when those methods fail. The hegemony always responds to threats with military force. The collective always tries to gather more information before acting. The ethereals always attempt to find peaceful solutions. That makes them predictable," Captain Martinez observed. If we know how they'll react to different situations, we can manipulate those reactions. The manipulation campaign entered a new phase as humans began targeting specific individuals rather than just organizations. Marcus Chen, operating as Thexval in Zephyrian intelligence, identified key officers whose decisions could affect entire military operations. Sarah Kim, working within collective data systems as Varashi, located bureaucrats whose reports influenced major policy decisions. The humans had learned something the council species had forgotten. Individuals matter more than institutions. By influencing the right people at the right times, they could create ripple effects that spread throughout entire civilizations. The breakthrough came when James Wright, disguised as the ethereal researcher Moore Kuhn, made a critical discovery. While analyzing classified council archives, he found records of humanity's initial containment. The files revealed not only the decision-making process that led to the quarantine, but also detailed assessments of human capabilities and potential threats. "They're terrified of us," Wright reported with amazement. The council's entire response was based on fear. They saw what humans accomplished in just a few centuries and panicked. More importantly, the files revealed that the council had no backup plans. They had assumed the energy barrier would contain humanity permanently, and they had no procedures for dealing with the possibility that humans might escape or already be present in galactic space. Captain Martinez realized they had reached a crucial decision point. Humanity could continue operating in shadows, gradually expanding their influence while remaining hidden, or they could reveal themselves and force a confrontation while they still held the element of surprise. The decision was made for them when Dr. Elena Vasquez's disguise failed. During a routine medical examination at a collective research facility, the genetic modifications that allowed humans to pass as aliens were temporary by design, intended to prevent permanent changes to human DNA. Elena had miscalculated the timing of her latest treatment, and her human genetic markers emerged during a standard health scan. The collective security forces immediately placed her under detention, but Elena was prepared for this possibility. She had memorized protocols for revealing humanity's presence in a way that would cause maximum disruption to council unity. "I am human," she announced during her interrogation, speaking in perfect collective standard language. "My species has been living among you for years, learning your weaknesses and preparing for your inevitable betrayal." The interrogation recordings spread through collective intelligence networks within hours. The revelation that humans had not only escaped their containment but had infiltrated galactic civilization sent shockwaves through every council government emergency sessions convened, in every major system as alien leaders tried to understand the implications. How many humans were living among them? How long had this infiltration been occurring? What was their ultimate goal? The humans answered these questions in their own way. Across council space, human infiltrators began revealing themselves simultaneously. Marcus Chen announced his true identity during a Zephyrian military briefing. Sarah Kim deleted crucial collective databases before identifying herself as human. James Wright published his real research on ethereal technology weaknesses before disappearing from their facilities. Within 72 hours, the council faced a crisis unlike anything in their history. An unknown number of humans had penetrated their most secure organizations. Classified information had been compromised across all major species. Worst of all, the humans seemed to have vanished as quickly as they had revealed themselves, leaving behind only evidence of how thoroughly they had infiltrated galactic civilization. Admiral Vexka, who had supervised the original containment barrier, found herself facing the Council's emergency tribunal. Her confident assurances about human containment now seemed naive at best, criminally negligent at worst. "How is this possible?" demanded Representative Morden. "You assured us the barrier was impenetrable." "It is impenetrable," Admiral Vexka insisted. "Nothing has crossed it in either direction since activation. These humans must have been present in our space before the barrier was created." The implication was even worse than a containment failure. If humans had been spreading through the galaxy before first contact, then everything the Council thought they knew about human capabilities was wrong. The species they had dismissed as primitive had somehow achieved interstellar travel and established hidden settlements without detection. Representative Colhoun of the hegemony stood slowly, his massive form radiating anger. "Then we face a choice. We can attempt to hunt down every human in the galaxy, or we can prepare for war against an enemy that has already infiltrated our societies. Neither option guarantees success, pointed out Representative Zarath. If they can disguise themselves as any of our species, how do we know who to trust? They could be anyone, anywhere. The council that had once been united in their fear of humanity now found themselves divided by that same fear. Some called for immediate military action. Others demanded negotiations. A few suggested that humanity's infiltration proved they were already too late to contain the threat. What none of them realized was that Captain Martinez and her fellow humans were watching their debates through carefully placed monitoring devices. Every word, every decision, every show of weakness was being recorded and analyzed. Humanity had revealed themselves not because they were discovered, but because they were ready. The galaxy was about to learn what humans could accomplish when they stopped hiding. The Great Hall of the Galactic Council had never hosted a meeting like this one. For the first time in over 1,000 years, representatives faced an unknown species across the negotiation table. Captain Martinez sat calmly in the center chair, flanked by Dr. Foster and Commander Rodriguez. They wore no disguises now, appearing as fully human to the assembled alien delegates. "You have violated our sovereignty," Representative Mordun accused, his ancient ethereal form pulsing with indignation. "You infiltrated our governments, stole our secrets, and manipulated our societies." Martinez nodded calmly. "Yes, we did. Just as you imprisoned our homeworld without warning or negotiation. The difference is that we're here to talk about solutions." The tension in the room was thick enough to cut. Admiral Vexka sat at the military advisory table, her forearms twitching with barely controlled aggression. Representative Colhoun of the hegemony had positioned his guards around the chamber's perimeter. Even the usually peaceful collective representatives had activated their personal defense shields. Solutions? Representative Zarath's crystalline form flickered with skeptical patterns. "Your species has demonstrated exactly the aggressive expansion we feared. You've proven our containment was justified." Dr. Foster leaned forward slightly. "Your containment failed because you misunderstood our nature. Yes, humans are aggressive and expansionist, but we're also adaptive and collaborative. You saw the threat but missed the opportunity." "What opportunity?" demanded Representative Colhoun. "You've destabilized our entire civilization." "We've exposed the weaknesses that were already there," Commander Rodriguez replied. "Your societies were stagnating. Your cooperation was superficial. Your conflicts were escalating whether we intervened or not." Martinez activated a small projector, displaying holographic charts and data. "In the past 3 years, while you believed you had contained us, we've solved 17 major resource conflicts, prevented 4 potential wars, and increased trade efficiency by 37% in the sectors where we operated." The alien representative studied the data with growing confusion. The humans were right about the improvements, but admitting that would mean acknowledging that their intervention had been beneficial. "You manipulated our conflicts for your own benefit," Admiral Vexka accused. "We resolved your conflicts for everyone's benefit," Martinez corrected. "The hegemony collective border dispute had been deadlocked for 60 years. Our mercenary companies provided a face-saving way for both sides to withdraw without admitting defeat. The Zephyrian trade embargo against the Ethereals was costing both species billions in lost revenue. Our trading post created alternative supply chains that benefited everyone." Representative Mordun's skin shifted to deeper silver patterns. "You expect us to thank you for deception and manipulation? We expect you to recognize results," Dr. Foster said. "Your council has been trying to maintain peace through rigid rules and careful boundaries. It's not working. Species isolate themselves, conflicts fester, and innovation stagnates. Meanwhile, the galaxy has resources that could support 10 times your current population if they were managed efficiently." Martinez stood and walked to the chamber's viewing wall, which showed the sprawling city beyond. "Look at this place. Beautiful architecture, advanced technology, peaceful coexistence. But when did you last see real innovation? When did any of your species achieve a significant breakthrough? You've created stability by avoiding risk, but you've also eliminated progress." "Progress isn't worth chaos," Representative Zarath responded. "Who said anything about chaos?" Commander Rodriguez asked. "Humans don't want to destroy your civilizations. We want to join them. We want to contribute to them. We want to help them grow." The admission created a moment of stunned silence. The Council had expected demands for territory, threats of violence, or attempts at intimidation. They hadn't expected an offer of partnership. Representative Colhoun was the first to recover. You expect us to trust a species that has already infiltrated our governments? We expect you to evaluate results over methods, Martinez replied. Yes, we infiltrated your societies. But look at what we accomplished. Trade networks that had been broken for decades started working again. Scientific projects that had stalled for years suddenly made breakthroughs. Diplomatic problems that seemed impossible found solutions. She returned to the table and activated another set of projections. We're offering to share the technologies we've developed during our isolation. Advanced manufacturing techniques that can turn asteroid mining into major industrial operations. Biotechnology that can extend lifespans and improve health across species barriers. Agricultural methods that can make marginal worlds fully productive. Dr. Foster added her own contribution. We've also developed new approaches to conflict resolution that don't require military intervention. Economic incentives that make cooperation more profitable than competition. Communication protocols that can bridge cultural differences that have persisted for centuries. And in return, Representative Morden asked suspiciously. We want the barrier around Earth removed, Martinez said simply. We want recognition as a legitimate species with the right to participate in galactic civilization. And we want the chance to prove that diversity makes everyone stronger. The proposal created another wave of discussion among the alien representatives. They had expected to negotiate from a position of strength, using humanity's isolation as leverage. Instead, they found themselves considering benefits they hadn't anticipated. Admiral Vexka stood abruptly. This is impossible. Even if we wanted to trust them, how do we know they'll honor any agreement? They've already proven they can infiltrate our societies at will. Because we don't need to infiltrate anymore, Commander Rodriguez explained. Infiltration was a survival strategy when we were trapped and isolated. If we're accepted as legitimate participants in galactic civilization, we can work openly. Besides, Martinez added with a slight smile, we've already demonstrated that we can succeed whether you cooperate with us or not. The question is whether you want us as partners or competitors. The implicit threat was clear, but so was the opportunity. Humanity had proven they could thrive in galactic civilization despite every attempt to contain them. They had shown they could contribute positively when it served their interests. Most importantly, they had revealed that the Council's careful stability was more fragile than anyone had realized. Representative, Zarath's crystalline form shifted through several color patterns before settling on a cautious amber. Assuming we consider your proposal, what guarantees can you offer that human expansion won't threaten existing civilizations? Dr. Foster answered immediately. We're offering joint development instead of displacement. Human settlements in systems that are currently uninhabited or underutilized. Shared research projects that benefit all participants. Trade relationships that create mutual dependencies rather than one-sided exploitation. We've seen what happens when humans are excluded from galactic civilization, Martinez added. We adapt, we survive, and we find ways to thrive regardless of restrictions. Wouldn't you rather channel that energy into positive contributions? The debate that followed lasted for 3 days. Representatives returned to their ships to consult with their governments. Military advisors ran scenarios for both cooperation and conflict. Economic experts analyzed the potential benefits and risks of human integration. In the end, the decision came down to a simple recognition. Humanity was already part of galactic civilization, whether the Council acknowledged it or not. The choice was between accepting that reality and working with it, or continuing to fight against an enemy that had already demonstrated its ability to outmaneuver every defensive measure. The vote was closer than the original containment decision had been, but the result was decisive. 7 species voted to recognize humanity and negotiate formal integration. 3 voted for continued opposition. 2 abstained, waiting to see which side would prove stronger. As the session concluded, Representative Morden approached Martinez privately. You realize this will fundamentally change galactic civilization. Nothing will be the same. Martinez nodded thoughtfully. Change was coming whether we were part of it or not. The galaxy is too big and too full of opportunities for static civilizations to last forever. At least this way, everyone benefits from the transformation. The energy barrier around Earth came down 6 months later, not through force or sabotage, but through carefully negotiated agreement. When the first human ships emerged from Sol system, they found a galaxy that was already adapting to their presence. The Council's ban on humanity had failed, not because it was overcome, but because it had been made irrelevant. Humans hadn't conquered galactic civilization. They had become part of it, changing it from within while being changed themselves. The galaxy would never be the same, but perhaps that had always been inevitable. In trying to contain humanity, the Council had forced them to evolve in ways that made containment impossible. They had created the very future they feared, but also the opportunities they had never imagined. The age of careful stability was ending. The age of collaborative expansion was about to begin.